Oh, honestly, I'm going to cough it, right? I'm going to admit now, I didn't predict MIBR in this one. I've seen the maps come in, and I had a moment of doubt. As soon as I saw the map, I had a moment of doubt because I was like, you know what? I know MIBR are good. I know that they can play a Chalet. I know they can get around this map. I am starting to doubt my prediction. I'm going to stick. And obviously, the social vote.
I mean, it's done.
Agrees. Oh, it's locked in stone. It gets carved in stone every night at midnight.
Yeah.
There's a ceremony and everything for the.
Unless it's Demo who does every single one wrong.
Yeah.
A flawless failure of prediction with Demo. It's a good removal, Lion. If we hark our minds back to the game that happened yesterday, Team 1 sort of tried to play with the Lion, had no go with it, but Valkyrie was one of the free options. Valkyrie was an operator that caused so many problems for Team 1. It is lessons learned, and if anything, okay, maybe it's just lessons that everyone knew and Team 1 forgot, and because of that, because of them taking a swing and it quite missing, MIBR's gone back to what they know. As it was pointed out on the desk, the second map is Coastline. It might not be the best MIBR map, but it is, out of those remaining pools, the worst DAMWON gear map, and sometimes you've just got to push those, you know, more comfortable bets.
I think that everybody forgot about Valkyrie yesterday. We saw so much Valk play. It was I was expecting Valk to be permabanned like Valk always is. And it just wasn't the case. Valk was available. Obviously, in this game, a little bit different. And the bans, you could say they're a little bit wobbly. We've got a Twitch in there. We've got a Lion in there. There's full Heart Breach available here. You've got a lot of nades available. There's nothing really that's been pinched and pressured too much that we regularly speak about. So to see the attacker lineup being so free, it would again lend itself to this mindset and this idea that Chalet is a good map for the attackers. They've got attackers on this map now have got no excuses.
None at all. Now, obviously, if we're going to talk funky bans, the one that was removed in the showdown yesterday was Frost as a selection because they wanted a bit of energy on the approach and it didn't quite work. As we said, the Lion, it wasn't so much that DAMWON Kia were using it perfectly, but they had a good enough grasp that they could control the space play, and if that's what MIBR wants to play into on their defenses, it makes a lot of sense to remove that. Chalet is a mess of intel. It is so tough and tricky when you're on a defense. There's so many places to hide and drive a drone to just get a full read on not only where players are, but most importantly where they rotate. You look at that massive fireplace hall, it takes one well-placed drone and suddenly you've cut this map pretty much in half outside of the basement rotate and you have a full sight line across. So how is that going to grow into this? The Frost, as I said, was removed before. It's an instant pickup here, and no sight better than this. The quick hop-in that actually DAMWON Kia were the ones to punish down below.
Good to see the Wingman on the Frost as well straight away. He was the highest rated player. I think he was MVP of day one. So that's always going to be something that's, you know, going into the back of your mind, as especially if MIBR just had to sort of sit back and watch yesterday unfold. DAMWON Kia, they've been in the mix, they've had a game, they've got themselves nice and warm, and they can come into this one relatively hot. On the approach, MIBR, they're going to be going for what seems to be the fairly standard trophy solar side clear, and they're going to have some Romans to deal with. Lukid shuts Yas down as the opening engagement will go in MIBR's favour. Lukid working ahead of the pack there, but with drones at his feet, he's able to pick up that entry.
It's a bit of a rotate there. They obviously have some control. They've been able to take care of Yas, but to be fair, Yas wasn't the biggest impact yesterday. However, it's still this lead-in. It's still this early blood body, and I love the adaptation of the take here. MIBR, they've gone for, again, tradition. They're starting the approach on the far side of the map. They're going to see if they can get all of the control on the bit of the split before they try and take care of the shield on Piano. Why am I saying this is important if it's the standard? Because it's exactly what Team 1 didn't do. Team 1 tried to take the fight directly to the pillar player and straight onto Library and found no success when they went for their own approach. So it's good to see MIBR going for something a little bit more traditional, because if that is what bites back at DAMWON Kia, you need everything possible and every statistical advantage in your favour.
I think the one thing that I'd like to see from MIBR at this point is either Fouls to make the rotation, or for a Maverick to go and just open up that back storage wall. That would really put a lot more pressure on site, because as it stands, everything's fairly one-dimensional at the moment. We've got Raps now going to challenge on in, no drone work being done, hit by the Goo Mine, hit by the Frost Mat, and he is down for the count. But it matters not, because Redux and Filippo's come in with two really important kills there to drag that advantage back. Raps isn't going to get picked up. No one really minds at this moment, as there's still an advantage for MIBR.
Woogieman, he's holding with a little bit of solidity over the top. He's trying to retake, obviously, the mantle of the pressure here. They have been able to bite back when they're a man down before, but it's down to MIBR to capitalize on the fact that they can still swing that advantage. A slow creep, and now he's the only one left as Falls is able to take care of Coda to spray, and the diffuser goes cold, but there's one above and there's one below. It's below that gets the opener here. MIBR with a lead in that we hear 200 feet away on the other side with headphones on. That's an energy they needed and one they've got to bring in.
I said I'm regretting my prediction, and I am going to double down on that fact. I am regretting my prediction at this point. It's been one round. That's all we've seen at this point. But MIBR look hot. Felipox, through the entirety of that round, spent it inside a garage, on drone, finger boosting here and there. He naded up the back of blue stairs, and he was just where he needed to be at the time he needed to be there. Sure, there was a little bit of lackluster droning. There was a moment of madness when Raps hopped himself in and just immediately succumbed to the Frostmat, which was just inevitable at that point. I think everybody knew just what was going to go on. We got a great view in the setup of those Frostmats going down, and when you're challenging onto that fireplace angle, you cannot afford to have your gun looking down at the floor in case there is a Frostmat there. So it really is something that needs to be pre-droned, but it really didn't come to many odds in the end. Opening attack for MIBR is going to start things off fairly strong. DAMWON going to start to mix things up. Not going to double down and hit the bar again. Instead, they're going to go upstairs.
Okay, DAMWON Kia, false start. But to be fair, you're off to a pace yesterday, and yesterday MIBR were free to sit back and watch your game against their country compatriots to see exactly what they could try and piece apart. And here, we're back on Chalet. It's a good map, but it's a map that they have very recent ideas on how they think that they can take the fight to you. So, I guess from this point, I'm curious to see what adaptations we get from DAMWON Kia. Obviously, we had this play on early window peaks for quite a lot, but there was never a single time out of the entirety of the showdown that it actually netted a kill. I like the growth into the alibi. I like the fact that we might be able to see some other sparks come through onto the aggression, but it's obviously seeing, again, what ticks, what clicks, and what they think they can put against MIBR, because for me, MIBR is playing with a full stack.
I think the pick up onto the alibi, it speaks of a little bit of aggression, doesn't it? It also speaks of a need of a deployable shield. The Frost did work pretty well in the previous round, and we could maybe have seen the Frost brought again, but with how much burn there is available for MIBR, I don't foresee these shields being too much of an issue. We've got Woogieman currently playing on Trophy. It's going to be information that's lacking as the mute jammers do just slow down the roll of the drones. Fowls is trying to gain a little bit of intel on that solar repel, conscious of the run out. With both the Rooney gates burnt, he's got a limited amount of time here to really make that play. And with the player still on the trophy stairs, it's going to be even more difficult to shift. Yas supporting from below on that alibi. It's going to make it even more difficult for anybody to try and rotate up. Although, saying that, he is going to actually make a little bit of a move as Reeps gets himself onto the big window. Raps opens up the big kill onto Rin. Second opener here for MIBR in 2 rounds. The kills start to fly, but so does a C4 from Woogieman, which will find its mark.
It's suddenly all starting to spark here as they're trying to dig their way through. Woogieman, he bites back against Reduct, and now on a quad kill on Raps. He is not going to get the ace, but he doesn't need to. MIBR keep this ferocity up. 2 rounds, 2 threads, and to be honest, a little bit more of the LATAM that we kind of wanted to see at the start of this.
Just do it again. MIBR, just do that again, please, because that was exceptional stuff. The patience that they're showing here. DAMWON here, they're committing to locations, I think, Fluke. I think that's their biggest problem at this point, is they are over-committing to trying to hold on to these angles, and they're being a little bit too stubborn with it. MIBR are a little bit like a dog chasing their own tail at this point. They just want to get that tail at all costs, and they are going to get it at some point. When they get it, they're probably not going to know what to do with it, but as soon as those positions get taken, as soon as the player off trophy stairs is removed, Reduct on the big repel, you don't see players getting onto that big window as quickly. MIBR are moving at a rapid pace here, and I think the DAMWON Kira are just getting themselves really caught off guard. There's a little bit of doubt obviously creeping in now as well, as we see a return to the bomb site that we saw in round number 1. And we all remember exactly how this went. It was a round that was essentially won and lost out on the roam, with multiple kills coming in from that north side clear through Trophy and upstairs inside of Solar. Similar lineup being brought this time as to what was brought in round number 1.
5 seconds left.
You've really got to start asking questions of DAMWON Kia and just see, you know, what are you guys going to do differently here? What is going to be the difference maker?
It's a bit of a overhanging, I think, and that's the worry, because okay, it was a great game between DAMWON and Team 1, but it was a game of a lot of nerves. They're able to punish the mistakes that Team 1 were putting on. MIBR have come in cooked. They've come in with some energy that they don't have that first day nerves. There's already been wins and losses. The game is afoot. It's not an entirely cold start, regardless of whether it's their first game or not. And that is a very different energy, and it's an energy that they have applied so well over these opening 2 rounds. DAMWON Kia, this could be the first time they're really forced to sweat and start answering some questions themselves. Again, it's a very different SI to one we've ever had before. It's a very different major to one we've ever had before. A single best of 3 a day is a new experience, and it's one with a driving factor of if you don't get that first map, regardless of whether you win the series, you don't get the full amount of points.
I thought you were going to go with a single best of 3 a day keeps the doctor away, or something along those lines, but we're going to be full white flash currently. Shouldn't come under too much harm as we're still well and truly in the information gathering stage. Luca just hopping his drone into library there, playing on the Iana. Does have a nade left, so he's maybe going to try and nade out the player at the top of Fireplace as we see the burn come through. Rin now should know that something is on its way, but chooses actually not to move. The nade is thrown well, but not well enough. Chunks Rin down, but it is keeping him alive. A drone to confirm that yes, it was only damage, and Philippox now trying to finish that job. Another ADS to catch the nade. It's going to leave Philippox in a little bit of a sticky spot. It was his last. 2 nades do remain on wraps, but this is a very expensive Jaeger that you're trying to get rid of at the moment, and we can just hear the ding of the ADS coming back online.
Now, a lot of pressure comes down onto Rin in this position. They're going to see if they can try and pinch out the players, and obviously we've talked about the synergy between where Rin is playing and how much control that gives you over the opposite staircase. It is one where you need the other to survive for as long as possible. Coated, they don't entirely require it, but as long as they're still standing, they shouldn't be able to get the free kill. There's the spray, there's the drop, and there's the revenge. Rin and Coated get the lock off, and that is why you have that synergy perfectly explained as I tried to explain it. But look at this. Hopped in. Falls has been able to find his way onto the site, however, he's diffuserless. That's still left outside. I don't think he expected to get where he's at, and Woogieman might not have a true idea either. As long as they stay standing and still, it's just waiting for the cover to come through. Raps gets the pickup. The spray comes through from Cat Sang. There's pings either side, but there it is. Unexpected. Falls, pops up, pops two. A great double take over the top. Now has it all the advantage to get the cover onto this diffuser. They're going to see if they can potentially swing around. They get aggro, they get the cover, they get the diffuser down. He's behind the half wall, but they're a bit concerned. Yas isn't though. Gets a free kill onto one, and it's just the verticality. But in a 2 versus 1, they can try and build themselves back up. Luke it. He's going to hold off to the top of the staircase. Some explosives come round. A spray, a pre-fire, and a drop back to the hatch. Pulls back to some of the cover. The pings are there. The spray is there too. Perfectly played. More than enough time. DAMWON Kia with a big change.
I'm glad that Coated started to run to disable that diffuser, because that just seemed like he'd done all the job. He got stuck on the door and he was like, I didn't make it through the door, it'd be fine. Coated, get on your way, I've got 3 kills this round, you need to go and disable that diffuser, dude. Do something, please, and help me out here. A close round. MIBR, they got themselves deep behind enemy lines. Fouls with the hop-in. I think he was as surprised as anyone when he managed to stay there for as long as he did, and it was kind of explained when he didn't have the diffuser. He didn't want to take the diffuser into such a vulnerable location, but the push through bar stock was beautiful. He knew where the player at the bottom of those library stairs was, but he also knew that he needed to be getting the cover to get that plant down, and was conscious of the remaining player. A couple of flashy kills, but it wasn't enough. It all comes down in that round, in my opinion, Fluke, to Rin. He played it beautifully. The top of Fireplace, he ate every single grenade. His ADSs came back online. The burn wasn't sufficient. The burn was good from MIBR, good enough to get the nades through, but it wasn't good enough to get the kill. They did it all, they did 90% of the damage. They just couldn't get that last 10% over the line, and then all of a sudden you get Reduct trying to just brute force his way through. There's a deployable shield there, he hasn't got any lifeline left. It was just a bit of a difficult round coordination-wise from MIBR, which is quite the contrast to what we saw in the opening couple of rounds.
Discovered the location of a bomb.
It's the first time we're seeing Kitchen. It's the first time we're seeing a little bit of a stretch to a slightly different site. And again, I think for me, this raises those points from MIBR is, what did they learn? What did they learn yesterday watching Team 1 on these approaches? Because the first few times they were able to demonstrate it, their homework was pretty pitch perfect. And to be fair there, I think they were able to get in a very good position, a bit unexpected. Fool's taking the double kill was so well played. He was able to slip by onto that supply chain on the backside of the site and then put some devastation down. Little gaps, little problems that we saw with DAMWON Kia yesterday that Team 1 weren't able to punish because, well, they were making these mistakes of their own. Here it seems like MIBR are a little bit sharper, a little bit more aggressive, and again, I hope that leads into something that gives us a little bit of a back and forth and a bite from the two teams. Or it could be the chance for DAMWON Kia to pull themselves level on this fourth round.
It's the second
fourth round, their second chance.
Second round.
Second round.
Number 4, I mean, obviously. At that point, it just goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You see a little bit of a juggle here of utilities. A couple of late ADSs getting placed here by Written as the push has been discovered and found to be coming in through that typical solar side. Foul's going to be manning those solar windows again. Raps below, just peeking into trophy. Lukid maybe looking to jump onto that rappel and work ahead of these drones. The drones are coming in now. The second time that we're going to see the gate burned. Lukid just going to try and drone himself in here. Typically the drone work for MIBR is very good. Katsang's now known, player on that big rappel. Really autumn challenge because all you do is a head. Redux, what are you doing? You can't just peek with your head. Fortunately, Lukid's there for the trade, but it's just a clean 1-for-1.
I'm curious about why they were drawing that much attention. They knew he was there. The C4 doesn't quite catch Lukid, but there's a body on the piano window as well. So Yas has to either take a fight or move away whilst taking a fight. Opens himself up an angle, almost gets opened in the meantime. Filippo's trying to get the guess, but there's a hot ping right on the player. This is what I said at the beginning. Drones on Chalet, they are such a nightmare. Just assume you're on drone at all times because chances are like that, you probably are. The plants, the plant pots, the beams, the barriers, that's a blow. And another double as it comes through. Filippo over the top is able to clear up around that big fight and fireplace, and well, that is a big body disadvantage now for DAMWON Kia, and it just gets worse. Woogieman, all that's left.
He's going to find himself one, but he's got 3 more to grab here. It is going to be a little bit difficult. 50 seconds left on the clock. Still a think boost in pocket and nades to boot. Lukid with 1 and Filippo, with 2. Woogieman, how much intel does he have? Catches out the Iana clone. There's potential for a hatch drop coming in here as well. Just going to give himself an option of a rotate. Obviously got the call of Bar, but look at him. He's getting fired on all fronts. Triple threat cross, Shadow of a Doubt coming as the air quotes weakest LATAM team.
Yep.
And that's just based off the year that they've had. But you can't deny that there's something there. There's a spark there when they start storming through rounds like this. Now, it's early days. We've seen 5 rounds. There's a long way to go yet inside of this best of 3. We could end up going to all 3 maps and be sat here in 2 hours' time with an entirely, with it looking entirely different. But it's just good to see the way that they've started it. Very enthusiastic. And they've obviously wobbled DAMWON Kia enough to the point where they're thinking, right, it might be the attack, but it might be MIBR on the attack, but we're probably going to be better off taking our time out here and just try to guarantee 1 more. We just need 1 more defensive round, and then we can start to worry about our own attacks.
Yeah, and that's it. And although I can say a 4-2 is kind of common, a 5-1, which MIBR look like they could get with just a little bit more adaptation, because, again, it's worth highlighting the rounds that DAMWON Kia are able to take. MIBR, I think, for the first time, slowed down. They got into positions they didn't expect to be in at the same time as things going wrong elsewhere, and they had to have a bit of a retalk and a rethink. It almost came together. They got the diffuser down. They had themselves in that post-plant situation, and it was a 2 versus 2, 2 versus 3, but someone just happened to pop off.
Party on the stairs.
Oh, everyone's invited.
I don't think we were.
No.
We're not on the stairs.
Well, we're watching from above.
We're watching from afar, but the stairs have been, I think it was a bit of a point of criticism, honestly, for me, previously when we saw DAMWON Kia approach this site. I just felt like they dug in very deep. They're fully committed there. There's 3 ADSs, there's a deployable shield, there's Woogieman playing there on the mute, and you just wonder, is that the best use of everything that you've got to offer? It's now forcing you to bring Yas on the Wamai to have the discs to be able to deal with throwables coming in from elsewhere. Drone eventually will get got. Woogieman knows that it's likely he's going to be getting pressure from the window as well. Just gets a little bit of a peek off it and knows that it'd be wise not to give it another look.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Woogieman's role there is to survive. You want to be there for as long as possible. If you can take someone out in the meantime, here comes the burn. He knows the grenade's going to come, so he has to fight his way out of the door either way, and he's able to slip past. Gets himself just tucked in, avoids that grenade too, and goes back to try and take another fight. He's wasting so much time. The ADS has just kicked back into life. That's yours. Don't shoot that one, but you did, obviously, take care of that one too, and well, it's this juggle, it's this balance, it's fighting the ADSs and trying to not take care of the, you know, all the bits of utility that are working in your favor against the ones that aren't. But look again how much time he's wasted. More utility, more of it's caught, and Rin actually steps in, offers something. Filippo bites back from the splint onto the west main side. The window gets a bit of attention. There's a close swing, and there it is. Finally, Reduct is able to take care of one, shoots out all of the stuff that Woogieman was doing his best not to destroy whilst destroying drones.
Reduct bringing the Flores is a really nice little change there. It's in direct response to what's happening on those trophy stairs. That's where all the attention's been paid in this opening 2 minutes. Now, finally, that control has been gained. It's come at a cost. It's come at the cost of wraps, but he didn't have any nades left anyway, so it isn't too much of a worry. Now there's just a small part of dealing with the site players. You've still got players like Katsang dug in deep. We've got Coated hiding inside of the bathtub. It isn't going to be the easiest of executes here, and we can't really see what MIBR are shaping up for. Sure, we've got Reduct on the big window. He's done quite a few miles in this round. He's got himself all the way rotated outside. Fouls will shut Yas down. Katsang responds. Trading the kill 1-for-1 and leaving the diffuser cold on the ground. There's information for the defenders here as well, demonstrated by those yellow pings that are coming on in. Lukid now has to pick up the diffuser, but no one's droned out the bathtub. Coated, he's found himself one, gets traded out, 6 seconds left. It's a 1 versus 1. We got Katsang versus Lukid. No time to plant. Lukid, you've just got to try and hold something. Still, there is information here for DAMWON here. It's something they've been lacking all game long. Finally, they start to bring a little bit, and look at how it rewards them. Dangerously close.
I mean, that's it though, isn't it? It was only just the DAMWON were able to take it out by a player hiding in a corner. You build from only justs, you turn them into, okay, just, and you turn that into, this is a well-played round, but still, you think of all the time that was wasted by Woogieman on Solarium Stairs. You think of if 10 seconds of that had been different, if one of those grenades had caught it, then that's an extra 10 seconds in that 1 versus 1. That's suddenly a very different fight and engagement that they're taking. It's all these precious moments that add up. That was the conversation they sort of had. How can they slow him down? They did. If they can pull it off one more time on a site that was, you know, that back and forth before, can this be them getting an even half? Can this be turning it back into a DAMWON Kia map?
Entirely possible. All bets are off at this point. 3-3 is well and truly on the cards. I think the problem with MIBR and their attacks, one of the big problems that we've seen, and it's been a consistent theme in rounds that they've either really struggled in or ended up losing, is the coordination of this burn. Yep, they're able to get the throwables in, they're able to get the flashbangs in, they're able to get the ADSs offline. What they're not able to do is then get the kill.
Yep.
And then we start to see nades coming in 25, 30 seconds after the fact, and all that happens is it just goes,
5 seconds left.
Gets shot out mid-air because the ADS has come back online. If you're going to be trying to burn out this utility, you really have to be coordinating that use and coordinating that push and making sure that everyone's in position to get that nade in. Now, I know it's difficult because there's an expectation that you're going to actually get the kill. And when you don't, that's when you've got to be able to adapt and change. The Twitch ban could be coming in here a lot more than really meets the eye. Twitch is something that MIBR really aren't afraid to bring. They're really not afraid to run, especially on a map like Chalet. I know that Twitch sees a lot of use specifically on Chalet for that reason. Could be a little bit of a factor here because it does seem to be something MIBR are having a hard time with.
Back to the drawing board, back to the hold here on how we opened this up and how it was dismantled before. Yas was that early death. Yas was the player that got picked apart, had a ping there. The intel game we talked about being a little bit lackluster from DAMWON Kia. It netted a bit of shock onto Lukid, but he was aware of it. Pulled himself further back and got himself into a slightly new location. There is players that are applying some pressure and there is some concern on where Yas can go and why he can go there. He's able to get some solidity, the hop down, potentially rotate round. He's eyeing up several different locations. But with Filippo underneath, the chances of a fight happening unsurprised, well, I'm still saying it's in MIBR's favor right now.
MIBR are going to suffer the same way that they did previously in that they're not going to open up that back storage and really force the players in sight to move around. That's become a very sort of in vogue and meta way of dealing with this site. Typically that player would be somebody like a Maverick below. In this case it's the Finker and Philippox, but he's still going to be in a good place at a good time and he can get the drone work done. Now we do see the deployable shield just get given up for free there by the Rotero. I like this sort of mid-round switch onto the Rotero that MIBR have done halfway through their attacks. It's causing DAMWON Kia a bit of a fluster. It's a way to get around the burn problem.
Well, it wasn't even just that. As soon as that Rotero came around and forced him off the shields, they then pushed the double door and took the fight onto the player onside pillar. Woogieman was there, able to refrag. Woogieman pulled himself back in and got a bit of revenge because they didn't account for them to be a third player up there. They thought it would just be two, and Coded is still able to keep this synergy above. It was a good play, but the surprise factor has bitten them back here. They still have vertical control. Filippo's going to have to make a little bit of noise as he creeps on the barbed wire, but we'll have to go for a burn and a burst here. It's an unfortunate situation. Straight past it with the adrenaline surge. Lukid takes a great fight on Coded. There's Yas biting back, can't get the second. Lukid with the double down the corridor, 30 seconds. 2 versus 2 in a fight on the door of the site. Pulls back, but they still have the second body. Woogieman is above, and that's a very important fight to win. Katsang swings wide, and there's the surprise. DAMWON Kia pull it back to a 3-3.
3-3 half, you've got to feel like that's a little bit of a missed opportunity from MIBR, particularly with the way that they started things off. DAMWON Kia responding really well, and I think despite the little changes and adaptations that we saw MIBR bring throughout their attacks, DAMWON Kia were ready for what that was going to look like and what that was going to be. Stubbornness to play in and around the site really started to pay a dividend. They played a little bit looser in that round as well. They weren't as hard committed to certain areas and certain locations. Instead, they were more happy to just take that fight, rotate the corridor, play in and around the bottom of library stairs. I think it was a really good round. Katsang particularly stood out there in that one for me.
DK, if you missed it, and to be fair, you might have missed it if you were watching the game yesterday, opened so quickly yesterday on their attacks. They pushed themselves onto the bar site and had the diffuser down without a single Team 1 player noticing. And one of the things that we talked about that works against how DAMWON Kia wanted to approach is this site is cellar. You do not see it too often because it's hefty, it's uncomfortable, and it's not really the gameplay that Chalet offers a lot of teams in the current meta. But what it did offer Team 1, again, lessons learned, was a moment, a breath. It was the one that DAMWON Kia struggled the most with. So again, why not lead in with a slow pace? Don't let DAMWON Kia get this sort of smash and aggression and give yourself something a little bit more controllable.
It's doable, isn't it? You know, you can go down to the basement, it's a doable site. I think where I worry and where I struggle mentally with it is knowing what sort of a defending team MIBR are.
Yes.
And this is 4 roamers, 1 support. Through and through. And you know, you've got to you just look at the lineup, man. We've got Oryx, we've got Vigil. Like this is exactly what it is. So you've got to be careful with how much you leave those site players to do. Now in this case, it's obviously changed a little bit. There's 3 air quote support operators there. We've got the mute smoke combination, we've got the echo. So there's going to be an expectation that those players are going to be in and around the site. But when this happens and the site gets open so quickly, and all of a sudden there's not a great deal that's going to stop Coated from getting that plant down if sufficient pressure can be put onto players like Fowls. Already the roam game, it's going to have to start to work back, and with that garage wall open, it ain't going to be as easy to get back into sight.
Now then, how can you try and crack the nut that you just could not yesterday? It was the only failure of DAMWON Kia's approach, but it was a failure, and you've always got to be aware of those changes. You've got to not just talk about how MIBR can learn how to attack, but DAMWON Kia, what can you take away from the drawing board of mistakes? How can you fix things, regardless of the fact that you're up against a different team? It's still growth. It's still you looking for a new team to try and play against. It starts at the top floor. It starts on the library side with a bit of an approach and an explore down below, and Reduct says, no entry for you, Rin. Cuts off the Finker, cuts off those boosts, and a big gun, big hands.
We can hear the Logic Bomb phone call ringing through, and players scurrying back down. Luka just taking advantage of Oryx's burst of speed to really get himself across the rotation quickly. With the hatch open, he might have a nice chance of a bit of a rotation here, and it wouldn't be beyond Lukid for that to be something that he is considering at this point, I'm sure. I think despite the early progress in terms of getting the wall open, there hasn't been that much else from DAMWON Kia directly onto the site. Say that, and Yas has actually been able to shut Philippox down. Now, I think that was a through the hatch kill that he was able to get from those main stairs. Can now just send Iana's clone down to gather a little bit more info and just see exactly how the land lies down in that connector. We can see the skeleton key getting used above as well. Katsan just making sure that sufficient angles are open. I'm really worried here about this rotation for Luke. I think that the rotation from Luke could be on. It could be fairly significant. If he's able to hop himself up through the hatch, he could maybe even double up with Redux here. But that Logic Bomb phone call is going to come in. It's going to put a stop to all of that good work. Woogieman taking good advantage, finding the kill onto Redux as another will fly.
Now, Luke, they're going to see if they can get closer to the fight itself there on the plant, but look at only a handful of seconds. They don't know. The audio comes through, doesn't have a clean angle, and now we're in a post plant, and they can just slip right out that door. The smoke does get that final connection. One's gone deep, one's got locked off. Luke with a great swing puts it back into a 2 versus 1 around the backside of Blue, and suddenly Luke, he opened it up with a big swing and a sprint, but now he's a man in a bit of a tricky situation between 2 big players. One's rotated round to the closest swing round. He's going to see if he can bait the first fight. He does, but it doesn't go his way. DAMWON Kia, while they show that thing that they did so well yesterday, is sometimes they'll lose that opener, but that does not stop them approaching that objective.
It's a really well-rounded attack from DAMWON Kia, I think. I love the introduction of the Dokkaebi. I think the Dokkaebi's fantastic, especially against MIBR and how they like to play. You're looking at a roam, you're looking at players that want to get themselves out there and then make a rotation back onto site after having some sort of an impact. Dokkaebi's perfect for that. If you're not going to play something like a Nomad, if you're not going to try and secure the flank, if you're going to aggressively take control of your flanks and go, well, if there's people out there, we're going to give them a bell. We're going to see what they're doing, and we're going to get them on the way back. Beautiful stuff. So I think that was something that, and initially it causes the panic, doesn't it? And it forces MIBR back down onto site maybe a little bit sooner than they would want to be. A lot of work got done on the book with the skeleton key as well. Katsang really made a mess of that main lobby floor. So much so that MIBR have gone, well, we tried to go downstairs. We tried to give ourselves a little bit of a moment to breathe. It didn't work out. We now need to go to the bar and kind of have another rethink.
Have a think, have a sit down, have a glass of water in the bar.
Water's good.
Delicious, everybody hydrated. And it helps you think, and it helps you sort of restructure in how you can do things. Now the split and the slip pass last time, as I said, was, suddenly DAMWON Kia is in the site and they've planted. It was something that Team 1 suffered. You have to treat them with some impression, and in the strangest way of putting it, you have to treat them like a Latin American team. And I mean that there is no region better at the minute of seeing an opportunity, seeing some open space, and having the bravery to just go for it. DAMWON Kia does that, and they do that so well that sometimes you have to sort of treat it like a home game, because they sure are. Reduct. He's playing around the big double window. He's going to go back for a late pick here, hoping that maybe he catches somebody unaware, but they've already since slipped past that. They're up on the wall, and Yas setting all the way to the roof. The swing into the pop. Nobody's taking the balcony side, although Katsang's looking about having a rethink. They're going for a bit of a structured take over the top.
And this is MIBR in a nutshell. Fouls on the site and nobody else anywhere to be seen. Everyone has just ran away and left fouls to do probably a large part of the setup, as well as try and hold on to things. Now the setup does extend beyond the sites. There will be things that have been done upstairs inside of the fireplace. For example, you can see walls reinforced inside of office, but ultimately the idea here is to hold and retake that office when required. Logic Bomb phone call coming in. Not enough to cause any significant disruption. We've got Katsang going to be holding onto the flank. He's on the new balcony window, just keeping his eye on through. Yas has actually already got himself into library here, and he's got pings to be working from. The drones have really started to come alive from DAMWON Kia in the information game as a whole. It was something that they really limped into at the start of the game, but have since gotten onto. A lot of angles being held here as the nades do start to come through. Yas is going to attempt to swing, but he's going to pay for it. Going to get dealt a ton of damage. Luca gets away scot-free, and there's almost a thought and a temptation for a full rotation there.
Wow, talking of wraps, he's going to try and find a little bit of I guess, lack of comfort there. He's sort of surprised that there's nobody underneath, but the take is happening on multiple different stories, and it's put MIBR in a bit of a tricky situation. That intel gain is now in the favor of DAMWON Kia, but they also have that presence, that threat across so many different aspects of the map where suddenly you'll just hear their bullets ricochet of pretty much every surface at the same time. Lucid is suffering that too, and you can still see Raps is moving rapidly to just try and find some semblance of safety, but none is to be found. Another call, and a plant is being attempted, but the smoke played perfectly, pushes Coated back out the door. Whether that was just a reaction to the smoke or not, there's a reaction to a player, and there's Falls going for the swing. The smoke gets the lockdown on the planter. It's Rin and Reduct with one apiece, and Coated still on the floor. Woogieman has to do the bits, but with a player still down in a handful of seconds, they don't have the time truly to get the plant on the pickup. Woogieman has to cover from above, but the rotation and a take from Katsang, massively important, gives them a little bit more to work with. Doesn't truly have to look up because that's still locked down. It's the closed door, but it's one more. They get the plant off though, just too little too late it might be. A 1 versus 1, 2 stories. Woogieman above, and Filippo has to do what was done against them before. The retake, but the difference is Woogieman's pulled himself outside. He knows he doesn't have to overstretch. He knows he can play this with a little bit more caution. 20 seconds, it's still time to go for a bit of aggression here, but that is all on the mantle of Filippo. Takes the drop, realizes he doesn't truly know where the player is, so he's going to try and at least bait a fight early on. Is Woogieman too far away? He does drop just in time.
Library on the cards, it could have ended very differently. Redux swing there, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're always going to lose that engagement.
5-3 DAMWON Kia, and as I said, most of that momentum has now come in a row. It's time for them to see if they can, I guess, keep a little bit more of that pressure on and drive themselves home, because as I said, even when things start to go away from them, the great hold that was being done against that diffuser plant, they still were able to get it down. They were still able to sort of focus themselves and make sure that they could play around that objective. It was that part of them on their Villa play yesterday, their second map, where even when a lot was going against them, they kept a cool head, and a cool head leads to cool results most of the time. MIBR, they were able to get off to a great start here, and they've had their time out to try and slow some pace, bring it back into their favor. What is that missing link? What is stopping them? Because, you know, a lot of the times their play against that is almost perfect or good enough. There was the smoke as well on the attempt on the plant down, or the first time on the plant even, on the first attacking site down in Cellar, where it struck just a second too late. It got the player down, but if it had been on the other side of that, again, it could have been a very different round for them.
It's fine margins, and I think that's why MIBR are happy enough to go back down here. They've just had the TAC timeout. They're going to have been able to discuss exactly what they want to try and do going into the next couple of rounds that are coming up. DAMWON Kia is slowly but surely edging a little bit of a lead here. MIBR led by 2 rounds to kick things off, so it was always going to be a little bit of a fight back, and I think that the momentum hasn't really been on MIBR's side. It's the first time I see them get the opening kill in a long while, and Philippox is going to make it 2. DAMWON Kia just showing their head at windows and saying, I'm free, take me.
I mean, Filippox there, absolutely perfect. He is a player who, to be fair, has been able to show up and have these impact doubles. He's sitting on a 2 KD, but the whole team has generally been able to get into fights. It's just, he seems to be the best at getting into them and then not getting scraped or scathed by an instant trade or a refrag. His positioning, his playing into that awareness of, they're aware, so let's keep leaning in. Let's keep trying to find these new angles and keep myself moving and aggressive. Lucid, he's up and uncontested in the power position we've talked about many a time. He's going to make sure he can survive for as long as possible, but Woogieman is at least able to finally get some revenge for a player who's already taken 2 of his.
The garage entirely open to move through now. Woogieman can start to make that approach. Strange to see them bring the Nomad this time as opposed to the Dokkaebi. I feel like the Dokkaebi has been working really well in terms of moving the players from MIBR around. Obviously, it's a very different sort of flank watch. This is much more passive. You sort of place the air jab, and you're still going to be conscious. You're still going to be listening for those going off in the distance, and you're still going to be trying to use them to corral these players around, but it isn't the same threat and the same sort of imposing doom of a Logic Bomb phone call.
Katsang is waiting patiently to see if he can put some pressure on. As I said, they play cool, and they wait for the other DAMWON Kia players to get into a position where they might be able to strike with a little bit more consistency. It's time to talk, time to think, but It's all time that ticks away and means that those pressure plays, where if you're looking at the back line of Falls, he's, as you said, been very good. The smoke canisters have been played perfectly. He's been great at rebuffing the plant attempts, so it might not be something that comes to as much success if they can just try and get a little bit of a bite a bit sooner. The pings come through. Luca has an idea that there's a player potentially popping through, but not that close. Katsang gets the bite on the first. There's the spray back, and they just get it locked off in the end. The drop and down comes through. A bit of a fight happens onto the site itself, and, well, it's coated, going for a pickup and a replacement. Boogeyman's waiting on the stairs, on the bottom of the door, going to see if he can swing round 2. It's down in the corridor, and, well, they're right behind you. Where are you being shot from? You're not entirely sure. 15 seconds, the burst round onto the back of the supply line, but it's MIBR to wrap it up.
MIBR didn't come up against any obstacle whatsoever in that round. DAMWON died with 4 nades in pocket. There was still players on top of Fireplace. There was still utility that was being burned in those final few seconds. That was a really strange round to see, and I'm not sure what sort of caused it. What was the real root meaning of that round going so differently to the one previous? We saw DAMWON confidently moving on through. They really aggressed themselves on into site. As soon as they had an understanding there was a big roam game, they were like, yo, we're going to get straight back into site. We're going to try and get some sort of a plank going down here and bait out this utility. And that's what they did in round number 8, and it was really good. Round number 9, there just seems to be stalling. There seems to be a very unsure call, and the biggest thing that we saw change was obviously in terms of operator. It was the Dokbeer comments on it at the time, but MIBR seemed to be playing with a lot more conviction. They had that buddy system. They were playing nice and close together. Philippox opens up with a couple of really big kills, and that just takes the round by storm. So I think MIBR obviously must be feeling pretty good about that one. These are the 2 openers that we mentioned earlier there from Philippox. You can't teach that.
No.
You really can't, and you can't repeat it either, necessarily.
No.
It's a very much a right place at the right time, bit of a perfect storm situation.
So, we will be back in the game, just a momentary tech pause to get everything sorted for the players, 4-5, MIBR. They've been able to have a burst of momentum, and, well, I guess it's always the argument of is this fortunate or unfortunate timing for them. To be honest, I don't think either for either team. I think it's good to have a bit of a moment. I don't think this will break either of them. DK, they're happy to keep going. Things didn't quite connect, as you said. They died with a lot of utility in their pockets, and at this point, it's just a run to the end of the map to see who can keep that, I guess, lock off. DAMWON, it is their map. They're only 1 round away from at least securing OT, and then 2 from securing this map itself and guaranteeing themselves a point from this playoff. MIBR, I mean, they're putting up a good fight, and they have still a lot of that fight left. They might be able to steal this map out of them and potentially try and bite for all 3 points, because following into Coastline afterwards, with how this game has gone, you definitely favor MIBR right now.
You've got to give them a little bit of a thought, haven't you? If they're able to achieve the same 3-3 split and we maybe go to an overtime, something of that nature, it really is sort of thrown up in the air then to, you know, you almost toss a coin, because MIBR have shown really good points and really strong points today throughout this game, as have DAMWON, and both teams have equally made the same kind of mistakes. You know, it hasn't been anything horrendous. It's not been anything really bad. It's just been stuff like, you know, dying with a bit of utility here and there, not having as much coordination as you would like, and I think that last round was a good example of that. There's obviously a very different intention here. The thermite's being brought, and that usually means that we're going to see some walls get open. Now the site is going to be downstairs in kitchen and dining, but typically you're going to hold it like you would hold top floor anyway. You're going to try and keep a good presence inside of office and bedroom. A lot of vertical already been opened up, and already you see the castle barricade get opened. An expensive exothermic charge, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
But it's one way of doing it.
I mean, the thing is, you look at where else those exothermics are going to go. If they're going to be doing a solarium take, then they're going to use the one on the solarium wall and lead into the site. And if they're going to be doing the box take, then it's going to be the one on the box wall. There's not really too many times where you go for a breach on both sides, especially when you're running with just exothermics, with Habana still on the board, with obviously Maverick still on the board. They've already set themselves up for the idea of we're going to do a singular take. So at that point, I think, okay, under that understanding, it's a bit of a handoff, and, well, what else do we have? Do we use a Gon 6 potentially in the pockets of the Iana? Where else could we pull from something to take care of that? We might need that Gon 6 for a little bit of pace later. at least they can put that exothermic on safe. A big rotation, or a big chance of one, is that current threat looming all the way on the ground floor. It's something that might pop up a little bit later on in the story to cause some drama with a couple of the MIBR players giving themselves that stretch of Chalet and what it can offer on those rotations.
Katsang's going to get himself onto the bedroom rappel. As the book, he's going to be itching to get himself in upstairs and start to rip open a little bit of that floor and disrupt fouls on site. But it really will only be fouls on site. Felipox, back-to-back opening kills here. He was successful in round number 9 and 2 successful here in round number 10. Takes Kota down. And no longer is the thermite a thing. We're not actually going to see any breach. That's going to make attacking into kitchen even more difficult. It's likely going to be a single doorway push or even at worst a hatch drop push.
I think that's it at this point. Again, for how long, and I was talking about the control they need to have above. If they want to get the box open, then they've got to have the single on that side. But if you've just got them repelling on Solarium on the far side before you've even got your entrance onto the top floor, let alone the fireplace control, you need to get that box taken behind the dining table. Well, at that point, you're just sitting ducks, and that's the problem. DAMWON Kia, Reduct, is able to take care of Katsang. That's 2 down. Just from the fights and the approach, they've finally been able to get some boots inside as they're trying to find the fight here across Solarium, and Yas is able to get one. Rim with a pre-fire round onto Trophy. They're going for a very close take here on West Main, but to be honest, with only a handful of seconds, what else are you supposed to do? The grenades are cooked and attempted. No verticality. Is just going to be a deep dive, a C4 over the top. Doesn't quite net the results yet, but it's still sitting behind the table. Looks up, it's down, and so is this round for, DK, MIBR pull themselves even 5 apiece.
I really enjoyed the C4 that just got thrown onto the floor. There's attackers running past it at that point because it's just that late into the round. Oh, what a glorious mess from DAMWON Kia. It all started with the exothermic on the castle barricade. You made a good argument before him, Fluke. I think you were trying to see the best.
Yeah.
But I think it all started there. Honestly, for me, there was a bit of unsurety from the off. Opening kill again. We know how deadly MIBR are when they get that opening engagement, as are many teams. Let's be honest, it's no unique statistic, but in this game, MIBR opening kill. Bang, can't pick who you get onto the thermite, all of a sudden all bets are off. Now it doesn't make the round unwinnable from there, but there was a panic and there was very much, what do we do now? What is our next step? I mean, you look at the lineup and you go, well, you've still got your Bug, you've still got your Thinker, you can still take hard and aggressive gunfights here if you want to. They just didn't want to. They didn't have sufficient information to clear out that top floor. The nades were being used super late. The nades could have been used to clear that top floor out right from the get-go, but they just weren't. And I think that the loss of the thermite was something that maybe wobbled them a little bit more than it should. Leveled up at 5 rounds apiece.
DAMWON Kia. Caution, and unfortunately that was punished. MIBR were able to swing out at the right time, and the way they sort of did it was, as I highlighted, they have these players a little bit deep, a little bit off the beaten path that are happy to sort of take fights, and it doesn't stress the rest of the control. It's a 2-story hold, as I was pointing out there, and the take that they did was on the top story. There's a Gun 6 to pop a castle, much quicker, and as I said, it's that immediacy that they could have offered themselves before, but didn't. But still, that caution is something where that loose player, that Felipox, is going to be able to show up when he's not being contested and when he has that freedom to sort of say, well, they're stuck there and I'm down here. How about we try and make this, I guess, hit heads? Katsang, he's going to get himself into the garage. He's going to see if he can try and start popping up some 2-story holes and holds. It's the takes that they're more familiar with. They're able to try and get control of the back of the hard walls. You're also able to dig yourself up underneath Solarium stairs. If you're good with a grenade, it could be a quicker way to remove a player that might have been buried there. But look at this. This is Felipox. This is the play we've seen him do well before. This is the play I talked about before, and this time, nobody's falling for it.
Been a long time into the round. Still not seen an opening engagement as of yet, or at least an opening kill to come through. There's a much slower approach here from DAMWON Kia. I think they've recognised that early aggression, just showing themselves at doorways and windows isn't working out, and I say that, and all of a sudden the hop-in. Felipox 3 for 3 in the last 3 rounds. Is this going to be a double yet again? It very well could be, and there it is. The shot slam beautifully. Rin and Woogieman down. Flanks now fully exposed with the Nomad gone. Couple of nades gone in Rin, and of course the power of that weapon. again, not an ideal start. Things are starting to fall apart here.
That's it. It's just been a little bit lackluster here. And MIBR, they've shown the energy they had at the beginning of this game. They're playing to this to win, and a bit of a scrappy fight there. Katsang gets pretty much everything but a death on his own side, but gets a death out of MIBR, and that's the most important part right now. It's 1, but it's a minute to see if you can find some more, and you're going to have to do it with a much more sheltered approach. They still obviously have the smoke canisters to try and, a whiff of that for Katsang, and it's over. Code gets a smell, and he definitely doesn't like it. With that diffuser struggling these past couple of rounds, it's Yas with a grenade underneath to get a great take. We said they died with utility before. They've made sure that they can get a bit of work of it here. Luka couldn't quite find the body through the hatch, but that's 2 for 2. Now it's just seeing if Katsang can get an approach here.
Pick it all away and watch it at this moment in time. Yas is going to find one on to Lukid. It does give the advantage back here to DAMWON Kia. A lot of information available for Redux though. He does let one past Fouls, be able to shut Yas down. Hop in now going to be attempted as the exothermic charge is going to be placed. This is tight stuff with only 10 seconds left to go. Kota gets caught out there on the Wolf Warp. He knows that there's going to be a man inside of the piano when he makes his shots, lands, finds himself 1, finds himself 2. The Fragmite coming in all senses of the word there. 2 beautiful kills to round things out. MIBR have let that one slip. DAMWON Kia, map point.
That's a lesson that DK have taught a lot of teams is the round is never over until it's over. The frequency of them winning a round in the final 10 seconds, I mean, it's never a stat you rely on, but my God, is it a good trick to have in your bag of tricks. That confidence to sort of make these plays happen. The conversation there of we need to play these players. We know where 2 of them are roughly. The call to swing around out of the little box there and get that final bedroom kill as well. I mean, it pushes them onto match point, and after how the previous 2 rounds had went, they needed a spark the same way they sort of desperately did in the first half, where they could not find a way to bite into MIBR's aggressive game. We're back in bar, we're back in a site that's gone either side and either way. Will this be MIBR's chance to push to OT, or will DAMWON Kia secure themselves their map pick and a point?
3 versus 5, by the way.
Attackers have located a bomb.
That last round. That's the one that stings.
That's DAMWON Kia.
That's the one that stings.
Honestly, I'm very curious about their entry statistic because they, regardless of today or yesterday, quite often take these rounds 4 versus 5.
Yeah, it hasn't looked great, has it? But they've managed to pull it off. They've managed to get away with it in that previous round. Is that going to be the momentum and the drive that pushes them here towards this map point? Potentially. We've got 3 minutes to see if it is going to be here or if we are going to go to an overtime. Now, for all intents and purposes, they haven't looked great attacking into bar in previous rounds. We've seen lackluster use of nades. We've seen players dying with a lot of nades left, players unable to be shifted out of key positions, and almost a willingness to just hop into the site and start baiting stuff quite early. Now, I know that Fouls typically plays the site on his own, and it looks as though that's going to be what's happening here as everybody else is, for all intents and purposes, in Narnia, but there's got to be a little bit more because Fouls is more than capable of keeping you at bay unless you fully commit to that side push.
Lukid on the top of Fireplace, holding the mezzanine and seeing if he can just get some control over it and keep that cool, calm edge. It's a bit of an explosive drive towards the top of the stairs. As we said, this is kind of the standard approach, but that first one gets caught out. It's the job of Lukid to see if he can throw as many of those discs to stop that approach. And Yas with the hop in. There's holes underneath, sure, but he's got into a position now under the audio guys in cover where he might be able to try and swing a bit of a pinch push they've done before. Reduct is the difference. The maker that keeps a little bit more of a string of sight lines across the board there. Could go for the pressure on the window. Could go for some of the support here. It starts to be burned. There's the hop in. There's the approach on the back of the window. First fight comes through. Katsang pulls back. Blinded. Yas drives deep. Fights the first fight. Gets it. The second is no longer there, but it's the third fight that finds him. Lukid is able to get that revenge and almost gets his second. Katsang on the swing round on the double window. It's suddenly lighting up there. Reduct said he was there to fill a hole and he does it perfectly. It's the way that DAMWON Kia punished MIBR in a similar circumstance before.
Katsang's still just looking to try and hold on to that angle as well, and it feels as though the moment for that has passed. Hops down and sees if he can make anything happen from the main door. coated, still knows that there's going to be a couple of players here, and as he jumps onto his drone, he's very susceptible to the C4, which Redux will oblige to beautifully. That's diffuser down, cold, very unlikely to be recovered, especially given the positioning of the players of the two remaining DAMWON Kia. We got back up on the big window, back on this new balcony, as Katsang did go downstairs, but felt like, well, I'm probably going to have to go back up now and look to recover that diffuser, or even look to try and buddy up with Woogieman. But with Lukid still playing on Fireplace, it's going to be very difficult to try and shift him. That's going to be the first port of call. You can see Woogieman attempts the engagement. Redux gets himself into a little soiree as well, as the kill will come in. 19 seconds left. The diffuser still yet to be recovered. It's likely not going to come down to a plant, but instead a ton of kills.
Well, with one player off in kitchen, they're not going to be able to get anything here. They go for the supply line, can't get their confirmation, finds that player at least, but there's still one off in Narnia. Redux gets himself a triple, it doesn't even matter. We're going OT.
It almost looked for a time as though we could have seen a similar round to previous, where we did actually see DAMWON Kia come out with the win despite a very narrow amount of time remaining, but it was the diffuser, wasn't it? It was the positioning, it was the fact that it was the classic throw the drone, get straight into the drone, get C4'd.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to throw the drone, you've got to bait the window, you've got to
I think that's
give it a little bit of something, because Reda's just seen that and gone, oh, freebie is it? Thank you.
Because they know that there's pressure still in that environment as well. They know that it's a hot bit of property. They've lost their control at stopping exactly that. They don't have a player on the mezzanine because they lost that firefight. They don't have a player inside the library anymore because, well, they were able to win the first but lost the second and the follow-up. At that point, you know that there's pressure in that moment, because that's exactly what you're trying to crack. To just throw a drone in and assume the best isn't giving the respect to the play that LATAM does. If we have that conversation of you have to treat DAMWON Kia like a Latin American team sometimes, DAMWON Kia, you got to treat a Latin American team like you treat a Latin American team. They are always going to try and swing into the space. They're always going to take an engagement. It's football. You see space and you run into it with the ball and try and get a goal. That is how they play. And that is exactly what keeps punishing DAMWON Kia.
It's just essentially a flow diagram with, is there opportunity? Yes. And there's no option. You know, it's just yes every time.
It's just yes.
Everything's just yes. And are you going to get swanked? Yes.
I mean, how many players have we seen now from DAMWON Kia get caught on cams by a window?
Yes.
And exactly, and it's active firefight as well. It's not like that they're being caught by a Nook on the far side of the map or a Vigil. They're not being taken entirely by surprise. They have an idea of what they want to crack, but they're trusting a semblance of safety that you never really have when you're up against a team from Latin America. 6-6 OT. MIBR have been able to do what their country compatriots Team 1 could not and push DAMWON Kia to the brink of a map. They still have a chance to take it, still have a chance to 2-0 and get some true revenge, but for now, this is definitely a massive step in.
And there's no real advantage here to start inside either, because both teams went 3-3, so it doesn't really bear any resemblance that MIBR are starting off in the defense, other than they have just been on the defense and DAMWON Kia have just been on the attack. Opening kill going to come in here onto Raps. Losing your smoke early on, never ideal, but it is sometimes a hazard, sometimes something that does happen. Yas gets terribly unfortunate there. If he just holds on for a split second longer, he gets a chance at potentially Redux, and maybe another player that's getting a little bit too close to those windows, a little bit too aggressive and willing to peek. Halfway point now, as we can hear the skeleton key starting to rip open a lot of the floor. Both layers getting opened, and a ping onto the Mozzie. Katsang could try and cut him off here, potentially, if a rotation comes through up Trophy, but looks more likely as though Fleetbox is going to go to a little bit further toward the middle.
A bit of a stretch in exploration now. They're going to see if they can try and do the same punishment they delivered before, but it's becoming tougher and tougher for Fleetbox. As we said, the stat of entries going away from them is rarer, generally in the engagements against DAMWON Kia, but here they seem to have been able to snap up a couple of snappy shots, and that pushes them in a trickier position. Falls back, pulls away from the drone game that has revealed, hey, there's a freebie. Doesn't quite get it though, and that is a massive loss. Rin was entirely out in the open, and that's just one of those things that might come back to haunt them a little bit later on. Just past the minute marker now, all left, and it's a 5 versus 3. You do still have some big players, and it's not just DAMWON Kia that can pull off these plays, but it's looking tougher and tougher for the remaining MIBR players.
Luke really going to be feeling those missed shots onto Rin. Only chunked him down by half as well. That's like 1 or 2 bullets maybe hitting its mark. Filippo's still out on that roam. Does have the C4, but this is going to get overwhelming very quickly. 30 seconds in a 5 versus 2. We haven't seen too many of these recently. MIBR were known for their 1vx's inside of the qualifiers, but this is a very different beast. Filippo's is going to kick things off with one onto Katsang, but he is going to have to start and finish everything here if he is to hope to get away with this round. He's got a little bit of information, he's got the ping, but the plant's going to go down before he can do anything about that, and now the game is up. His location known. He's going to make the rotation up library stairs, bravely so, but this is just going to be into a firing line of DAMWON Kia. They haven't even exited the site all too much. They know they don't need to hold from afar. Coated there to gather the information. The C4 to hit as well. This could be on here as he picks up the first 2, but doesn't account for Rin.
You very much see us heading to that map 3. However, it's still frustrating. It's still those moments that sort of eat at you like, it's a little bit of a missed ship. We've just been able to take this site. We've just been able to put some pressure down on it, and suddenly things are starting to slip away from us. But there's still chance, there's still opportunity. It's still a reset, and as you said, it was through a PC the half. So it's not that we know MIBR can or can't attack. We know they can do both, and it's time for them to demonstrate. It might have been a little bit of time since we saw the last, but they're here to remind you they're still fighting.
That's all it is. It's just a bit of time since we've seen them attack. Have they remembered the way?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure they've remembered the way. But we do tend to see some players on different sides maybe step up more or less depending on the half that they're on. I think for me, someone that's had a super quiet defender half is Redux. Really not been saying his name too much. He's not had that level of impact when you think to the sort of commitment that he was putting in on the attack. Now back on the attack, are we going to see a little bit of a resurgence maybe? Back on the Flores as opposed to the Zofia. Back looking to try and destroy those deployable shields and really look to assist that burn game that was something MIBR struggled with at the start of this map. So that's already a good sign. It shows that they're really developing through the fixture.
Now, this has been a bit of a back and forth. They were able to take it as their open around and their attack at the very beginning of this game, MIBR, and I guess they're going to see if they can replicate that here now. Woogieman, he's in the power position. He played a little bit against Team 1 and a bit earlier today, and they might see if they can try and shut him out early. Katsang is the difference. He has gotten very close for a later renegade there onto the hop-through window, and, well, I mean, at least it goes up, and you can do it from a bit of a range. There's a bit of a reveal. The alibi comes through. The grenade is going to be bounced on the beam over the top. And it catches them. Perfectly played, and that's the danger of that position. There was nothing that could be done, and it's actually one of the complaints that we had when Team 1 were approaching this, is they didn't try that attack. They thought, well, we can't get around him, we can't get the shot, so instead just went for, well, nothing. There, a single grenade bounced off the beam, gets a perfect take, and MIBR have the perfect lead-in.
We've already spoken about how dangerous they can be with that opening kill, and now they have an opportunity to really just demonstrate that. Woogieman, one of the best performers here so far on DAMWON Kia inside of Chalet, and the MVP from yesterday. If you're going to take out anyone, you want to take out a big kill leader, although it is coming at quite a cost. Katsang maybe looking for a little bit of a rotation back in just to reactivate the gate. Can get himself into the bar storage if he requires, but Fowler's already getting the plant down. That Aruna gate didn't go down. Katsang with the one tap. Excuse me, what's happening? The diffuser's going to be cold on the deck. That's going to be difficult to recover.
Katsang is calling things very fervently there. He made sure that the whole team knew what was happening, and he was in the right place at the right time to stop a train that nobody else could stop at that moment. There's going to be the Flores trying to force him into an uncomfortable situation. He goes past. They can't quite get the catch, though. There's nobody for the pickup. That was sort of a little bit wasted. There wasn't anybody to punish him instantly. Obviously, it was a Prisma that was only watching from the side. There's a bit of a jiggle peek, a slow approach. They know roughly where he is. He has a beam for safety, and he still has some semblance of support, but they're inside no longer. Katsang is doing everything to keep him in it. Blinded, he still sprays, goes for an escape. Can't quite get it with a pistol. One more down, and it's over the top. It's yes, and it's Katsang for the triple. One more round the supply. Can't find it. Lukin with a double to top onto the one he already had. There's 2 stories of danger in 30 seconds. He is everything to keep MIBR in this map right now. One's behind the bar, serving up nothing but trouble. He can't quite get the clean shot, and the glass is all dirty and muddy. The only thing he's seeing is slivers and sides, while the other player sits staunchly above. It's Yas and a trade, and DK just solidify their map.
Heartbreaking stuff there for MIBR. A trade and another 1 versus 1 potentially. It was a hard fought round, but it was a round that they overcommitted to too quickly. Katsang went from 0 to 0. Well, went from 0 to hero. Sorry, he didn't do a lot inside of that game. He was